Friends, Mike's MMA Picks here, checking in. Wanted to take a brief look back at UFC Vegas 22, where we had only 10 fights on the card, but we saw a number of finishes. This card delivered in my eyes. I was impressed. Even with the first fight of the night, we had the curtain jerker, Bruno Silva against JP Bays. Silva was able to get those leg kicks going early. We know he can crack, and very impressive getting that second round TKO. Also, if you're out there playing DraftKings, he put up a tremendous score. Really sealed the deal. If you're looking for the optimal lineup out there, that was very impressive. Looking forward to seeing where Bruno Silva ends up as his career continues. He has fought some adversity over his past few fights, and Bays was supposed to bring that South African wrestling. Where was that? That's a good start of mine. Second fight of the night, we had Montel Jackson taking on Jesse Strader, and Strader, honestly, he looked like he shouldn't have been in there. As I mentioned on the Morning Breakdown show yesterday, Strader has a tendency to go to the body, and that just created some massive openings for Jackson in that spot. By the way, we're live here, guys, so if you have any questions for me throughout this, shoot away. So Montel Jackson, he that Brett Johns fight, you look back at that, got controlled and wasn't able to break loose. This opponent, Strader, completely different opponent in this spot. So I was looking up and down the DraftKings scores last night, and we saw that Montel Jackson put up 116 points. Not too shabby in that spot at a salary of 9,400 though, so got to look for value spots there. Now, next fight of the night, where we had a controversial decision, some would say. We had Trevin Giles taking on Robin Dolidze. Dolidze was having some success early on the feet and really ran into some trouble with Trevin Giles' jab. And the cardio, there was concerns that the cardio may not check out. It did, but Giles ended up squeaking it out. I have no problems with that decision. I thought that Giles ended up deserving that victory in that spot. Next up, wow, we had a really fascinating fight where we saw Leo Santos not only putting up a good fight, but I know the judges had Dawson up. At least two of the judges did in that spot. Headed into the third round, I thought Leo Santos was winning that fight until Grant Dawson landed those tremendous hammer fists. I was incredible last second heroics there. Dawson and Krause, you see how a fighter and a coach can make things happen. And I was reading some comments about Kevin Holland and his team, and how there's a disconnect there. At least what we saw last night, it appeared to be the case. But Dawson and Krause were able to work their magic. Very impressive. I'm glad he got that win. So looking forward to see where Grant Dawson ends up after this win. He called out Clay Guida. Do you guys agree with that matchup? Do you think that matchup makes sense? I'd like to see it. I know Guida, last time out, we saw him do a number on Michael Johnson, but Grant Dawson and Guida, I'd like to see them lock horns. Next up, where we saw Macy Chiasson defeat Marion Renault, and that was a unanimous decision victory, though Renault had her moments before she got her nose blasted. That was an issue. The cardio checked out. Chiasson, fascinating fighter. She has gotten by on raw athleticism and also her natural athletic gifts. The size. She has certain attributes, the reach, and also she tries every once in a while to fight at range, and sometimes it works out for her, sometimes it doesn't. But last night it paid off. But you could find her an opponent where actually most bantamweights I think would give her problems. So looking forward to see who the UFC matches Macy Chiasson up against next. But she did get the nod in that spot. I agreed with that decision. Not impressed with the performance though. Ha ha ha. This was a fun fight where we had Montserrat Ruiz and Cheyenne Bays. Bays did not have an answer for that head and arm throw. It's incredible to see at this level, at the UFC level, that technique is still effective in women's mixed martial arts. Very, very surprised to see that be the case. You look at the control time, folks playing DraftKings out there. Look at the control time. We had 593 seconds of control time for 17 points for Ruiz in that spot. The question I have is that first round where she landed the head and arm throw and held Bays down. In your eyes, is that worthy of a 10-8 round? I personally thought it was. You have a situation where you're rendering an opponent immobile for 4.5 minutes, and Bays was not able to escape. Granted, there was no real damage done, but she was holding Bays down against her will. So I agree, with the decision. There was no question mark as far as who won that fight. But as far as the scoring goes, I did have Ruiz with a 10-8 round in that first round. And then the way the fight ended, I did not see Bays get spit on by Ruiz. We watched that back. Next up, fight that ended rather quickly. We had Max Griffin defeating Kenan Song. Oh, that was not a third round stoppage, so disregard that. That was an early stoppage where we had a situation where Max Griffin came in and was dialed in, was able to take Song Kenan out of there. Impressive performance. The grappling didn't come into play. Folks were saying that Max Griffin potentially needed to take this fight to the ground. That wasn't the case. And the thing with Max Griffin, he is getting up there in age, but he still has a lot of tread left on those tires. So I'll be interested to see where Griffin goes from here. Next fight of the night, where we had Adrian Yanez taking on Gustavo Lopez. Oh, a sniper in action. Yanez so comfortable in the pocket. He does like to admire his shots, though. When he lands, he'll sit there for a second and recalibrate, which in hindsight, that may not be the worst thing in the world, because his ground game is suspect. And if he's diving into somebody's guard to finish them, or he's rushing in, that could be an issue. I like to see the calculated sniper out there, and Yanez, high ceiling. Love that weight class, man. Bantamweight is phenomenal. So looking forward to the future of that division, and want to find out who is next. Who is next for Yanez? And Rob, I agree with you that we're not going to get a good number on Yanez unless they match him up with somebody in the top 15. And that top 15 at the bantamweight division is stacked, man. You look at that division, and who's who. I want to see more activity up top, though. They have to run back that Sterling Yan fight. Goodness gracious, that was a tough pill to swallow, especially if you were backing Peter Yan in that fight. Now, another fighter who shouldn't have been in there, Harry Hunsucker, or as Tai Tuivasa referred to him, Honeysucker. Tuivasa just unloaded the kitchen sink early, was able to take Hunsucker out of there, and actually one of the strikes that ended up landing on his way down looked like it struck Hunsucker in the arm. We didn't get to see Tuivasa work on his wrestling game, and I know that's been his kryptonite in the past, but I'd like to see against lower level opponents some offensive wrestling out of Tuivasa. I know that hasn't been traditionally his game, but he's still a young fighter, and there is opportunity for growth. So as far as Tuivasa goes, he also put up a significant DraftKings score. Looking down here, we had 130 points for Tuivasa. He ended up, I believe, with the early, quick finish bonus, which gets you 25 additional points on DraftKings, which is great. Let's see. Yes, I agree. I agree, Rob. Bantamweight is that's my favorite weight class, man. Action fighters, typically, traditionally, we haven't seen many finishes, though lately, man, we've been seeing finishes left and right in that division. Next up, we had a fight that unfortunately was taken off the board due to COVID. Brad Riddell against Gregor Gillespie. I was really looking forward to that matchup. We got in at a phenomenal number there, and just did not come to fruition. But you can't cash tickets when they're canceled, so we move on to another card in the future. There is something to think about also. Brad Riddell, with his COVID situation, you have Alex Volkanovski, who also was taken off the board. Shane Young, Malarkey as well, I believe. So there are a number of those city kickboxing fighters who are kind of sitting back, and we're looking at a number of postponements. I was really looking forward to seeing Omar Morales take on Shane Young. That was going to be a phenomenal fight filled with fireworks. But it is what it is, and they'll rebook a few of these fights, I believe. Then we have the main event of the evening, where we saw Derek Brunson defeat Kevin Holland. Holy shnikes. Man. Oh, Sandro, great to see you, my brother. The main event of the evening, what can you say? You watch Kevin Holland, and he is his own worst enemy. Hey, John. Ike Villanueva. Yeah, that would be something I'd pay to see that. That would put some fannies in the seats. Hopefully they can book that, John, when they get the crowds back into town. I think Tuivasa would be, he's an interesting guy. If you're sitting in the front row and you have a beer with you, may as well get ready to give it to him for that Chewy. Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Holy cow. What can you say? So Brunson, we knew headed into this fight that he had the better wrestling. No doubt about that. And Kevin Holland has a gaping hole in his takedown defense. That was going to be an issue no matter what. But you see Kevin Holland, and granted his get-up game wasn't there, but the opportunities that he had on the feet, he let opportunities slip through his fingers. And Brunson fought a phenomenal game plan. Sanford, they are doing good things down there. And when you fight a disciplined game plan, you give yourself the best shot at winning. And you watch Kevin Holland, that the situation that took place between rounds, I don't know how Travis Lutter sits there and watches that play out. I know he's done this before, but not to this degree. And this was on the grandest stage. So that was a tough pill to swallow, I'm sure, for Kevin Holland. But you cannot reason with unreasonable people. And until he comes to his senses and finds his own way, it's not worth it. Cheyenne Bays. Caught her. I don't think so. I know that she got stuck on bottom, and even in the pre-fight briefings mentioned that this would be an issue, that Ruiz would be going for the head and arm throws. She couldn't do a damn thing about it. But sometimes folks are strong in a certain position, and that might have been her kryptonite. Bays, when we saw it play out on the feet, she was ready to roll. But she's definitely got to work on her get-up game. And Fortis typically does a good job. The Bays family, though, they did not look good. They did not look good yesterday. We'll scroll through a few of these comments here. I do agree about giving Bays another chance, Sandro. Yeah. Let's see. A hot fighter who's done well against less opponents. Yes, that is true. That is true. The thing, though, with the ladies in mixed martial arts, sometimes you get into a situation where skill gets thrown out the window, and if somebody wants it more, and they are in your face, and they're grittier, and they're simply throwing for volume, and the grunts. I mean, we've seen this how many times, where the grunts are almost, you can see them being calculated, even though the strikes aren't hitting, aren't connecting. There's so many fighters out there. Chukagan's one of the fighters who we've seen kind of skate by. So interesting night at the fights. UFC 260 coming up this weekend or next weekend. I am really fascinated. We've seen the betting lines move over the past few days. We've lost a few fights, but the main event is still intact. Let's hope it stays that way. are we? Who? Let's see. Vicente Luque against Tyron Woodley. That should be one hell of a fight. I believe Dan from Best Fight Fix posted recently, does Tyron have a time machine? Because he might need one in that spot. I do think he might need one there. With Miocic, though, he's a spectacular fighter. Comes in with a great game plan, chip on his shoulder, but it only takes one from Ngannou, and I'm glad to see that this line has closed, but you can't count the champ out of there. Looking forward to that one. Oh, let's see. Here we go. We've got Mr. Enfuego. Yes. I personally, I was paying attention to the live lines as well as what was going on my television screen. I thought most folks would have given Santos the first couple of rounds, though I see that they were pretty close. You had the control of Dawson, and then you had the takedown defense of Santos was holding up pretty well in that spot, but could have gone either way. Bottom line was Dawson ended up coming through and did it with flying colors, and that's what you like to see out of a fighter from a great camp. And I wish more folks would head over to James Krause's gym. You see the success, not only the success, but also the maximum effort. Really, that's a huge component to it. Most of the guys, I mean, except Kroom kind of ran out of gas, but other folks, Elliott, etc., these guys come with a full gas tank ready to go. All right, let's see. We've got a few more comments here I'll get to real quick. Here we go. Do you think Woodley has more of a shot versus a striker than the previous wrestlers he fought? Yes, I do. I think that Woodley, I mean, we haven't seen him throw punches and bunches. He's typically backs himself against the fence, and then in the past he would unload. Here, Luque is going to have to be methodical. I know many have banked on his chin cracking. This is Luque's chin cracking at some point. Hasn't happened yet. Close. Barberena got pretty darn close to making it happen. So we will see. Let's see. We got one more comment here. Luque's taken more head damage even than Woodley in the last few fights. Yes, that is correct, Hound. And that's something to consider. It's a 3-round fight. I mean, you'd have to lean Luque as the favorite here, but you know that Woodley, he does possess power's the last thing to go, but the will, that's been a major issue for Tyron Woodley. He seems to have packed it in and should be looking to retire soon, but some of these fighters just keep coming back for more, making that paper. All right, folks, I'm going to head on out. Want to wish everybody a wonderful week ahead. Tomorrow morning, you can expect a tweet from me. Wishing everybody a tremendous fight week as we continue on. And thank you, everybody. I'll try to do this after each fight card, typically on a Sunday night. So we'll be in touch, and take care.